My transformative learning story began the night I was born into a loving traditional family in Lexington, Kentucky, as my father started his first college teaching job at Berea College. We soon moved to DeLand, Florida, where I spent the majority of my childhood. I remember warm days growing up and playing on the campus of Stetson University, where my father was a college English professor. In 1973, my parents had an opportunity to exchange homes and college teaching jobs with a German family, so off we moved to Freiburg, Germany for 1 year. After a year, we returned to life in small-town Florida for a few years before our next big adventure in 1979 took us again overseas to Tunisia, Africa, where my dad would again teach English. This was not the positive experience Germany was, but that did not stop my family's adventurous spirit. In 1982, we moved from Florida to Savannah, Georgia, where I learned to appreciate yet another college campus, Armstrong State College. My father was moving up the college administration ladder and became chair of the English department. We lived there during my 7th and 8th grade, so I was beginning to change not only physically but also cognitively. I was recognizing things about my family, friends, and myself that I had never considered before. In looking back at myself during this time, I remember starting to be at odds with my parents. After Savannah, we moved to Cumberland Gap, Tennessee, and Lincoln Memorial University, where my father became vice president and academic dean at Lincoln Memorial University. I started my freshman year of high school in Middlesboro, Kentucky, and drove through 3 states, Tennessee, Virginia, and Kentucky, each day to go to school. The next year and a half of my life were very contentious in regards to my relationship with my parents. When I look back, I realize I was trying to establish my independence, at least in my mind, but I did this in destructive ways. How my parents ever put up with me, I will never know, but they did love me enough to get me away from these destructive situations. Halfway through my sophomore year in high school, my father accepted the position of president at Lees-McRae College in Banner Elk, North Carolina. Much to my dismay, we left Tennessee and moved to North Carolina, and I started at Avery County High School. I matured some over the next year and a half, but still felt torn between being a teenager and wanting so badly to have the freedom of being an adult. Another problem I encountered at Avery was the absence of any academic challenge for me. I literally have no recollection of reading, studying, or doing any homework, but I still managed to maintain an AB average. At the end of my junior year, I became more and more dissatisfied with school. I saw no need to continue. The last day of school my junior year, I drove home and broke the news to my parents that I was dropping out of school. As the primary authority figures in my life at the time, I expected them to say, "You are going back to high school next year and you will graduate." Instead, my parents calmly and quietly said, "Let's work this out." After many talks about my choices, my parents said, "This is your life and your decision. We will support whatever decision you make." At this point in my life, I had been accustomed to have every big decision in my life decided for me. I might have had some say-so in things, but ultimately the road my life had taken up until that point had really been all out of my hands and in the hands of my very capable parents. They had always made decisions based on what was best for me. Now I was faced with making a life-altering decision on my own, and no one was telling me what to do. At that point, I realized I had changed. I had a say in things, and maybe the authorities in my life did not know the answer to the question I was facing. Only I did. This was the transformative learning experience in which my thinking about myself and my capabilities changed. I also realized I had a future that needed tending to, and education needed to play a large role in that future. Soon after school let out for the summer, I made the decision to take the GED and try to go to college in the fall. After I received my high school equivalency, I applied to Lees-McRae College and was accepted. This decision I made at 16 years of age affected the rest of my life. My family, the experiences of my childhood, the places I lived, the schools I attended, the people I met along the way, and the constant presence of education in my life all had an impact on my development as a person and led to this paramount decision I made. For the first time in my life, I saw myself different. The example my family had shown all my life about the importance of education had finally sunk in. I had a future, and what I made of it was completely up to me.